My maternal grandparents migrated from Multan to Delhi in India. I have grown up listening to partition narratives and the violence that ensued, but I've also grown up listening to stories of my grandparents' hard work and their respectful intimacy. My grandfather lost everything in Pakistan when he migrated to India and started from scratch. I have been told that he used to study under the street lights so that he could send his 3 daughters to an English-speaking school. My grandmother's family came much before the horrors of the partition began. Even though their social status differed, it never came in the way of their relationship and how they brought up their children. They were on the same page about cutting corners and counting pennies. I tell you this story because I admire how at that time they did not play to the boxed gender roles that the society wanted them to. My grandfather cooked, put oil in all of his daughters' hair, while my grandmother was known to be the strict one. I take this opportunity to honor them and their story, and this is the first time I'm narrating it in a larger audience. I do not know since when, but consciously or subconsciously, I have been questioning why things are different for men and women. I did not quite understand why I felt so strongly about these differences. I also come from the world's largest democracy, India, which is also home to the world's largest adolescent population, approximately 253 million. And her constitution accords the fundamental rights of freedom of speech. What is also happening currently in my India is the staggering increase in human rights violations. There is scrutiny on the books you read, the words you speak, what you put on social media, and an immense rise in communal conflict. Being labeled an anti-national and have sedition charges slapped on you has become as easy as taking a walk. It is certainly not the India my grandparents migrated to. I'm sharing all this because I want you all to know there is an increasing sense of unsafety, fearfulness, and the culture of silence being spread. And the equity in the larger sense of the term, a growing struggle, especially for the youth as they find limited safe spaces to express themselves. As I was sharing with some of the fellows the other day that I really want to love my country, but I'm finding it increasingly hard as rights are being muzzled. I also understood very early on that it wasn't like this for everyone. There was always people who could say anything and get away with no consequences. That some people have more access to capital and social capital than others. And that resources and their distribution was controlled in the hands of a few. It was then that I understood power, and mostly power over. I could see it in all my interactions, in my home, my school, in my college, my workplace. I used to feel like an oddity. Are the others feeling like that, or am I the only one? All these experiences have led me to understand that an important axis of power is gender. I decided to pursue this thought and action. And it is at these junctures that I truly believe that my work chose me than I chose it. When my friends and classmates started dating, I remember I used to neither feel attractive nor desirable, and I found it hard to talk to my parents or my peers about it. I gradually got out of actively thinking about that feeling, immersed myself in studies, tried to be an intellectual, but the sense of discomfort remained. I hadn't even explored my own sexuality back then. In my early 20s, I volunteered at a girls' orphanage. And every time I visited that girls' orphanage, I was asked questions about the pubescent body. They wanted to know about menstruation. Sex was a conversation that made them feel shy. Pregnancy caused serious discomfort. And I wasn't a medically trained mind either. So my subjective experiences of my own puberty was what I shared with them. I did not always work in this space of health. I started out by working on land rights and why women do not have access to ancestral property despite having a law favoring them. My naive self did not know back then that law and policy change may not always translate into societal acceptance. The narrative shared at that time by male members of the household was so violent that it gives me shivers even now. One of the brothers said that he'll pull out his rifle and kill his sister if she asked for land. One thing led to the other, and I have since then worked extensively with women and girls on gender-based violence, family planning, contraceptive access in both developed and underdeveloped geographies in India. I was forced to look closely at those who shared their difficult life journeys with me. And some with a look of resignation, some with exhaustion, and also some with tentative hopefulness. I spoke to women who had undergone multiple abortions and pregnancies. These were also the ones who used contraceptives in an ad hoc manner, and also the ones for whom the decisions were taken by men, and they had little or no say in it. One said, I had my twin sons and I was pregnant twice. I got abortions. I put a copper T and then I took pills. Nobody understands. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm just carrying on this way. Another one of them said, I never say anything around sex and contraception. He tells me when he wants it, when he wants to have sex, and we have it. Good women do not talk about sex. But then there were also those who were understanding of each other's needs, and these were largely younger people and younger couples. I often wonder how it would be if these women had, along with timely and accurate knowledge, also had autonomy over their bodies, decision-making power, and could access health systems without the fear of being judged. I felt that working on gender and social norms has been my calling, and it is an extremely important social determinant of health. Amidst many audiences, and mostly on the clinical side of health, I've sometimes struggled to get a buy-in for more concrete work on gender. While there is acknowledgement that achieving gender equity and gender equality is important, it is in many cases still limited to availability of sex disaggregated data, and that too within the binary. I realized that stigma, taboo, fear, oppressive dialogue, and misinformation were some of the most significant, challenging yet solvable problems, but are often ignored. And for this work to be self-sustaining, it's important it doesn't happen in silos, and evidence informs policy, and gender-responsive policies guide the implementation, and the advocacy is built around it. Through research, I've tried to present the valuable stories of all the women and girls as authentically as I could. I realized that there are no linear pathways or stories, and there are many, many multi-layered factors that contribute to an individual's decision. In my current work, my team and I have co-created gamified and experiential learning tools which address sexual and reproductive rights. They were designed by the young girls in the community based on what they want, from the colors, the language, the gameplay, the narrative. It was done all by them. As a research and intervention toolkit, it enables the participants to reflect and reimagine their health decisions, and not to make the same mistake twice that many of us have also made. And along with this, we are also working on informing how would a youth-led gender-responsive policy for adolescents' sexual health and well-being includes people across gender spectrum look like. Lastly, and very importantly, I wanted to share that when I entered the Atlantic Fellowship, I was already carrying a few purposes: a systems researcher, a game project anchor, a policy study lead. But within the fellowship, I felt motivated to pause. I disengaged from being a compulsive doer to engaging with mindful participation. I asked myself where I was positioned in my commitment to sexual and reproductive health and rights and gender. How much was I impacted by the work I did, and what impact has it had on me over the years? I'm grateful for this reflective journey that happened as a result of the pause and having to meet so many of you fantastic people, and the perspectives that you all have shared in the spirit of generosity, which has touched me, influenced me, and has become an important part of my learning journey. If it were not for this fellowship, I would not be reminded how important it is to think from my heart. And at AFHE, we have not only been encouraged, but applauded to think from one's heart. This experience has also reminded me of my own privileges and how thinking from the heart can make walking the talk much easier, something that we have not been able to do for a long time. The sense of community that I've found here is unlike I've ever felt before. And I feel a sense of liberation that only I can't even express, that I have not felt in a long time. And it feels like I can finally breathe here, and I won't do eggshell walking, and I don't feel fearful or judged and tired, and I don't even feel tired anymore, something that I was when I entered the fellowship. And I have more conviction in the work I do. So I'm Kuhika, and this is my story. It's special and difficult for me at the same time because nobody has ever asked me for this story before.